alas, alack, 'tis too much to bear for them. The cold Muskoka winter, and I just eat that shit up. I love that trope so much. Hey friends, it's Sarah, and today I want to talk about Beth O'Leary's upcoming novel, The Wake-Up Call. So this book comes out September 26th, which is just under 2 weeks from when this video will be released. Beth O'Leary is a British author. I've read a bunch of her books before, maybe actually all of her books before? I've read all of her books. I don't know if there's many authors that I can say I've done that for. But like she's the author of The Flat Share, which is now a series on Paramount, and I love that book, and the series was also pretty good. I also enjoyed her book The Switch, and then her other two I was kind of medium on. But this one has brought me back around again. I am a Beth O'Leary stan, and I ended up giving this 5 stars. It was so good, so let me tell you about it and convince you to read it as well. So this book is set kind of in the winter leading up to the holiday season. This follows 2 receptionists who are rivals. They were maybe flirty last Christmas. She confessed her feelings. He never reciprocated, and so now they have this weird enemies kind of vibe going on where she's I can't believe he would just ghost me like that and never say anything about it. And then he's why did she hate me? I guess I hate her too, she's annoying. And so they are running the front desk at this hotel together very begrudgingly when they have this big collapse in the hotel and they have to cut down hours and staff to try and find money for the repairs. The hotel's not doing as well as it used to be. It's a classic kind of Hallmark save the small family business sort of trope going on here. And so they end up having to work even closer together than before. Alas, alack, 'tis too much to bear for them. So they're trying to also find ways to turn more of a profit. And they find a box of lost wedding rings in the Lost and Found, and so start this adventure to try and find the owners of these wedding rings, just as a way to bring those back to people, but also maybe there'll be a reward if they return them. So Izzy and Lucas, the 2 main characters, decide to split up the rings and have a competition to see who can find the owners of the rings first, which then of course brings them closer than ever. And they start to fall in love because it's a romance. Like I said, this takes place in November, December, so it's kind of leading up to the holidays and Christmas. And the premise actually reminded me quite a lot of Reasonable Adults by Robin Lefleur? I have not learned how to say that name, I'm so sorry. Except that this one I gave 5 stars, and that one I gave 2 stars. So if you, like me, read Reasonable Adults and were very intrigued by this idea, because that one follows a main character who has recently been fired and ends up at this kind of artist retreat in Muskoka and is again trying to turn it around and save the business and falls in love with a coworker. If you read that synopsis and were so ready and wanted those resort Christmassy, wintry vibes and were very disappointed by Reasonable Adults, because I was very disappointed with it, then I think you should check out The Wake-Up Call, because I think it's exactly those vibes, but it's done right. Whereas in The Reasonable Adults, the characters kind of all lacked a bit of personality, except for the side characters. They had a lot going on. I was more interested in them than the main characters, because the main characters just they didn't have much personality. They had absolutely no chemistry. There was an ex-boyfriend coming back to try and get our main character back, who was just, everyone was just too Hallmarky. It was cartoon villains. The only reason the 2 liked each other was because they were hot. She just only talked about how hot the love interest was, and I was and what else is there? Apparently not much when you're just stuck in the cold Muskoka winter, but it was a lot. I'm pretty sure I talk more in depth about it in my, I think it was my Christmas books video last year. I'll put a link up top and in the bottom so you can check that out if you want. But that one was 2 stars. It really let me down. This one, on the other hand, has those great wintry vibes. You've got the small business and a good selection of supporting cast who are interesting and fleshed out enough, but they aren't overwhelming, and they they do what they're supposed to. They support the story really well. They add like flavor and it like fleshes out the world of this book. And the main characters in this are very interesting people. They've got flaws. They like things about each other that aren't just you're hot, which is a must-have for at least me when I'm reading a romance book. I hate it when the only thing going for the love interest is that they're good looking. It really takes me out of the story. As you can see, I've got a whole bunch of little like tabs in this book because there were so many good romantic moments, very like swoon worthy. There was a lot of tension and like build up, a lot of like really heated moments, I guess, without being graphic or explicit. I would say Beth O'Leary does a great job of like building up the tension between the two characters, and there's no like sex on the page, so it is a closed door romance, but it does feel very intense. But there is also that like emotional connection, and it's great. It's done really well. I'm not usually a huge like enemies to lovers fan, but I think this kind of like rivals to lovers. I've said in other books that I have enjoyed that, and I think it works really well in this. The transition from like hating each other to being like, oh, but they're hot, and then being like, maybe it's actually I do like them, I think is actually done really well and paced out super well in the book. I think my only like tiny little nitpick, which honestly in the whole scope of the book isn't that important at all, is that the ending is like a little bit rushed maybe. I think this was a similar thing with like the flat share, where they get back together and then like kind of ends pretty abruptly. I wouldn't mind like a little bit more of an extended like getting back together, making up sort of scene, but there is like a nice little epilogue in here that does help with those issues. I think that's just kind of like a thing in Beth O'Leary's books that I've found, that the endings tend to feel slightly rushed. But this one, like, there was so much good like romantic content throughout the rest of the book that I didn't really care all that much, because I'd already gotten a lot of like them being together or almost being together throughout this book. There's also, similar to the flat share, there is a like stuck in a hotel overnight, oh no, there's only one bed scene, and I just eat that shit up. I love that trope so much, and I think Beth O'Leary is really good at manipulating it to her advantage. Like I said, I gave it 5 stars. I did read this entirely in one go in a few hours. I stayed up until 1 in the morning to read it, even though I had to work early the next day, but I don't regret it, and I just like sped through this. I couldn't stop reading it. And I haven't had that experience with a book in a while. So I think this might be one of my favorite romances of all time. Definitely my favorite Christmas romance. I think like just behind Emily Henry's books, we've got The Wake-Up Call, which is saying a lot. It is set during the Christmas time, but it's not like crazily Christmassy. So I think this would be a good one to read as you're kind of like gearing up for Christmas season, but you're not fully in it yet. I don't know. It wasn't like overly like everything is Christmas. It was like wintry first and then kind of like Christmassy towards the end. So yeah, I think like November, if you're like, oh, I need something. I need something to like kind of get me going towards a Christmas spirit. This would be a great book for that. But I mean, I read it at the beginning of September and I still loved it and it was great. So just read it anytime, always. It's wonderful. Go buy it. Overall, 5 stars. I think Beth O'Leary's best book so far. And yeah, I am so glad that I got this arc. Thank you to Berkeley for providing me with this arc. It just totally blew all of my expectations out of the water, and I'm so glad that I picked it up. And you should pick it up as well. Let me know if you end up reading this. Do you also love it? If you've read any of Beth O'Leary's other books, like what have you thought about them? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope to see you next time. Now go read a book, preferably this one. If you've read So, like I said, this takes place in, talk about Beth O'Leary's newest upcoming novel. That doesn't make sense. She's British, right? So this book comes out September 26th. Oh my god.